Hey, one more video down. I took a food break. Anyway, let's talk about what am I talking about? Oh, Bama Rush. I thought it would be good to do a whole, let me pause that. I thought it'd be good to do a whole video on this because I struggled watching this. And I'm going to tell my story again and then um and hopefully that kind of leads into this conversation. I attended um, I attended Pepperdine University, and I knew I wanted to be a member of a sorority before I even started. And um, before I even attended Pepperdine, I was like, yeah, I'm going to be in a sorority. And so I was like, okay, this now to be perfectly honest, like my level, even though I have my godmother never talked about sorority stuff, and my aunt never did. And so I kind of came into undergrad blind, and I participated in Rush. And and there are no sorority houses at Pepperdine. So it was so they had Rush like around the in different classrooms. And you have to remember, well, it's important to note that 75% of the campus undergrads are Greek. So to not be in a Greek organization at the time that I was an undergrad, you really were missing out on a lot of the college experience because Songfest only let people who were Greek participate. Parts of homecoming was only for people who were Greek. And so you just were like, it was just a whole, to be not Greek, you were left out completely. So I definitely wanted to do it. But then um, I went through and it was alpha gamma. The alpha gammas that didn't work with me, didn't seem to be a good fit. Um, Alpha Phi, I was like, well, I just figured I would get picked for Alpha Phi because it was the most diverse. And so I was like, well, I'm pretty sure Alpha Phi is going to pick me because I'm Black. And then, but I really liked the Tridelts. I thought they were so adorable. But I was only chosen by one, and that was Sigma Kappa. And it was absolutely not on my list. Sigma Kappa was the smallest of the group. And I felt I didn't realize uh, how I felt. So you go to like your first little outing with them. And like on your first day, you get picked, you have a ceremony, and then you go to that outing. And we went to the outing, and it was like a bonfire. And they had, and we played a game like Never Have I Ever. And I was all, I've never done any of these things. And like at the time, I hardly ever traveled. So that left me out of that conversation. And then I was not sexually active, so that left me out of that conversation. And to the point that I was just like, you did what? Um, so, I was like, so I was already kind of feeling on edge. And then the next, it was like, let's watch our favorite movie. And I was just like, Grease. And I was all, I mean, so I get more quiet throughout the time that I was there. Because at the time, this was in 99. So my favorite movie at the time was Love Jones. So I was like, Grease, I've performed Grease so many times, not because I wanted to, but because that was what was given to me to perform. And so I, needless to say, that night I was like, this is not going to work for me. And I went to one chapter history meeting and that you're supposed to do for an initiate. And I was like, yeah, I'm not coming back. And I gave them their stuff. And they're like, wait, what? I was like, yeah, this is not, I was like, I have nothing in common with you all, like nothing. And um, then for the rest of the semester, it was, we'll pay, you don't have to attend any more initiate meetings. And I was like, nah, that's okay. Then it was like, then they'd come up to me, hey, could you still join? You don't have to even attend any of the initiation ceremonies. And I was like, no. And then they're like, okay, we'll pay for it for you. I was like, this is not about affordability. I can pay for it. I don't want to do it. And so and they're like, you don't even want to get to know me as a sister or as anything. I am just you know, I'm nothing to you. And then the next year they were suspended because of lack of diversity. But and so it really, I walked away from my experience like I was not Black enough to join Alpha Phi because they only really had like darker skinned Black people. And then I really began to kind of look around like there's only like one Black person in every other sorority except this one. And I would have been a night, they had a Hawaiian on my line, and but that was not enough for diversity. So they were suspended because they did not have a Black person. So watching this to me was such a trigger because I was like, y'all really are problematic. And it wasn't, I didn't know, I mean, I'm sure I probably knew, but I just didn't really care that in 2013 is when Alabama first allowed Black people to join, right? And it did become a big deal because you had a Black person as a student president. And hold on for a second, I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. Um, sorry about that. So, he just messed up my husband called and he just messed up my whole little swag. Anyway, so needless to say, okay, like I said, like I was watching this and I just got really triggered by my own experience, but I like to pause and think about um you know, I'm older. So joining a sorority is is important. It can be fun. Um, but I also struggle, like, and I realized too that when you are 18, I believe I was 18 when I pledged. Yeah. And so I was in my was it my junior? My sophomore year. Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot that is way more important to you at that time than when you are older. So I'm going to take that in consideration when I'm thinking about this process, right? However, period, no, semicolon, however, comma, I don't comprehend this level of 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 care and drama that these people are dealing with. And I feel like there's a sense of of reality that they're missing out on. So let me start off with the fact that there's rush consultants seems to be a bit much. And the rush consultants, to me, are saying things that are absolutely common sense. Don't talk about politics. What 18-year-old is sitting around like, so what are your politics? Like, that just seems strange in a social setting. Don't talk about money. So, how much do you make? Oh, how much is your family worth? Like, come on, that seems to be a bit much too. Then they said don't talk about I mean the things that they say don't talk about. I was like, do we really bring this up? Don't talk about booze. Yes, how much do you drink? And don't talk about boys. None of these are regular conversations. Isn't this like, oh, small talk? What show do you watch? You know, it's small talk is surface level. Like, so what is your major? Oh, what professor do you have? You know, that is small talk. So I think that this consulting thing is a racket. Um, the fact that these people hire consultants is just above me. And I really want to know, did they really help you or did most of this was common sense to you? And the fact that these people are like sitting here taking notes, I and and what made me sad is the women who really wanted to join really just need therapy because they're looking for validation in a sorority that it ain't gonna happen. And I think I love my sorority, but I am not putting the level of pressure. The fact, I mean, I feel like they put a huge level of pressure on what it means to be in a sorority, on these people, like what they plan on getting out of it. You plan on getting out of it, like finally being accepted, like finally being included. You may have surface level of that. But there is no way that it is going to fulfill all of your needs in this way. Like you're going to have a couple of those women who you're going to connect with tremendously. But to think that you're going to have all of these women who are going to always be in your corner is absurd. Somebody's going to sleep with your boyfriend. Somebody's going to, this is not going to all be peaches and cream or smelling like roses. There's going to be some issues. And I just struggle with watching this because it seems so unrealistic. But I'm trying to give it some benefit of the doubt here. And also, I feel like it's so radically disappointing. And so one of the girl and I find that the documentary as a whole probably could have been more than one episode, more than 1 hour and a half long, because I feel that there's so much to unpack. Like the fact that all of these girls, these women who attended fraternity events were all drugged, and some of them raped at least once. That's a story. Like, and the fact that they, none of them wanted to press charges. And part of them not wanting to press charges is because this may hinder their ability to be in a sorority. That's bizarre. You should never want to be in a sorority more than your safety. So let's talk about that. And the fact that that was kind of glossed over seems pretty strange as a person who's doing a documentary. The fact that you interviewed one of the first members to be on Sorority Row, aka, and you interviewed one of the women who was in that chapter at that time on that line, and coming and just reviewing the racism with a cross burning on the front lawn, and you kind of gloss over how race interferes in this, seems another bizarre moment. And they have two Black women, one of which is from Sigma Kappa, and she talks about her consistent issues that she has with her sorority sisters living in this house, which she seems to be an outsider. Fascinating. And she is fully aware that her being an outsider is probably based on race, even though she's like, I'm not, there's no overt racial incidents, but there's been a few things that have happened. And I just love how she evaluates like what they were trying to get her on to talk to her about, and then she's like, yeah, and spelling error. Like they couldn't spell Kappa correct. Just shame. Um, and her thing was she didn't go and join a Divine Nine because she didn't think that she'd fit in because she was raised by white people. And I'm honest, and I was like, look, that's the reason why you should have joined. And Michaela is one who wanted to join. She's also mixed. And I am like, ma'am, these people are not your friends. Like she's hanging around these two individuals, and then they eventually have a friend breakup, which I knew that was coming. And you've been, the fact that you were drugged, they took you to the hospital and left you. I mean, I guess you should be giving a high five that they took you to the hospital. And you were still thinking of joining. She doesn't eventually, she does leave. And the fact that even when they're doing your hair, I was like, ma'am, you're having these white women do your hair? Girl, do you know that your hair is black? Like, I mean, your texture is not leaning so much to the white side of your family. It is much more on the black side of your family. Like, if you don't get yourself to a hairstylist who can do your hair, like they kept doing it, and I was just like, that's not gonna work. Like, you're not gonna get the same flowy curls that they would have had if you were white. It's just, I want Michaela to, I want so much more from Michaela. And I want her, she's like, I know the Divine Nine's there, but I don't know if I can relate. I was like, girl, if you don't take yourself to an informational, because what you're looking for is there, it is not where you are. But I do think that she does bring up a point. She's like, look, I'm in my sophomore year and I realize I don't need it. And I was like, that's a legit reflection. And that's also how they get you in Rush, is that as a freshman, you get so caught up in a life. And I have seen girls who get so caught up in a life when I was in undergrad and they end up getting pregnant. They get, they do a lot in that freshman year. And you kind of feel bad for them. Um, the biggest criticism that comes from, okay, the biggest criticism is that they also don't dig deep on something called the machine. And the machine to me, it's like the secret society that has a representative from every sorority and fraternity and stuff like that. And they all vote and kind of do things. And it appears that the way that social media and everything kind of talks about the machine is that they're all powerful and that they're more powerful than HBO. That seems to be a bit of a stretch. But um they don't really dig deep into it, and people on social media is like, well, I think that they clearly didn't dig deep into it because of the machine that prevented them from digging deep. I, this is not my repertoire of understanding, but okay. And then they also are annoyed with the fact that they should have, okay, so then there was a hoopla, and honestly, I missed this. I don't know where I was, about all of these individuals. No, there's there's all of these individuals talking about, let me think. Oh, I'm not even really thinking about that. I'm thinking about something else. Anyway, um, it seems to be interesting about how all of these individuals are talking about um Man, I lose my train of thought. See, my mom keeps texting me and I'm losing my train of thought. I talked about the machine, which again, like I said, is above me. I don't understand. Oh, Twitter. Okay, so everyone was talking about Alabama Rush on Twitter and that somebody is 2022 and that they're making a documentary. They're going to mic people up. And so people were getting all upset about this. And they were like, I mean, they were really going at it. And I had no idea that any of this was happening. I clearly was not a part of the hashtag. This was another controversy that I had no idea existed. But I have concluded that I still don't. Okay, I had to put myself in this idea. I to this day, when I see someone, I will go on my phone and I will see people posting on Instagram of themselves in their initiation all white in this in ACAB, and they have they're not in the initiation room, but they're outside and they're posting themselves pictures in all white. I cringe because that's against the sorority rules. You're supposed to not take pictures of yourself in all white in your sorority, um, in your initiation attire. You're only supposed to take pictures of yourself outside of the initiation attire. So when you change clothes or something like that. So it's really, so when I see that, like, and so when my niece pledged, I immediately changed clothes and I was in a pink outfit and then I took pictures. And then if you do take pictures and you're all white, then it's not supposed to be posted on social media. It's supposed to be posted on, like, you can have that a part of your history book, but it's not, it's an internal picture. It's not an external picture. That's a better way to say it. But I'm also one of those people that I do care tremendously, but I don't want to get into a debate on this online. So I just look at it, shake my head, and I keep it moving. I know if I was younger, I probably would say something because there are moments where I get tempted, like, take this down. Now, if someone took a recording of going through initiation, I would feel violated. I would. I'd feel that it was highly inappropriate, that it was violating whatever sacred oath that you were attempting to have today. I think that it was highly inappropriate. And I would be no longer interested in you participating anymore. But I do think that this is not okay. What if someone recorded, and you know what, as a an AKA, we absolutely used to do, people would do this when I was an undergrad, is they would come to informationals as ops for somebody else. And I still to this day don't understand why grown women would do this. We would um we would do this for like the guys just because, we like someone there, we were all young. I get that. But for us to, you would not catch me going to another chapters, but people did this to me. Come into another chat, you're already a member, and you'd come to our chapter's initiation just to see which girls are interested, stuff like that. I find that to be petty and ridiculous. But so I'm not saying that it doesn't happen when it comes to spying and stuff like that. But I do think that if somebody came to record an informational just so they could possibly show it on a documentary, yeah, that would I would they would not become a member. So I do understand that. But if they were recording all of the, honestly, the more that I'm thinking about it, the more all of it sounds problematic. I don't think I would be interested in a woman coming to all of our events with a mic on. With that being said, that was the rumor that was taking place online. I don't think, I will say this, that at my age, I would not be getting, and some of these women were like grandparent age, getting online talking about this and adding more to the story than what was accurate. And come to find out, all of it was inaccurate. But what they were doing is they were following some women who were going to go into the sorority and following their journey and doing interviews with them. And people did not like that aspect of that too. And for that, I can respect that as well. Um, there used to be a show on MTV, Sorority House, and they did one on Fraternity House, and the Fraternity House got cut because they absolutely were filming hazing on television. And I remember thinking, wow, the fact that they're filming a hazing incident on regular TV and demonstrating it out to the rest of the world and nothing happens. But then if it was a D9 doing this, then it would be something completely different. Sorry, my kids decided to come around with their iPads, and so I'm sorry, it was all jacked up. So I've concluded that I agree that as I'm talking to you, I agree with them not interested in doing it, but they were kicking people out of the room based on a rumor, and people did not have mics. So, and the one girl was just calling everybody, and they're like, "Yeah, we can't do nothing. We can't force them to be interested in you." Feel bad because she's never going to be able to join. So, with that, maybe if she transferred. With that being said, the biggest critique of this whole entire documentary is the actual woman who does the documentary. She talks so much about, and she talks so much about alopecia and her suffering from it and wearing wigs. And what she's trying to do is she's trying to feel a sense of connection with these young women so that she can try to make people, the audience, understand why they care so much. Because I can understand a layperson watching this being like, why would you care that much? Because I'm looking at it like, why do you care that much? So I'm already knowing that other people are going to be like, why do you care that much? So I've concluded this show is ridiculous. And the documentary could have been better. It could have been longer, probably a series. And people online were like, look, I'm willing to talk about it, my experience. Um, as I've already been in it, you should have talked about people who defected And then you could have had a different conversation, had it been more in-depth conversation than people who are going into it, which absolutely has to censor themselves and watch themselves and monitor themselves. And I think that's a legit concern too, because, you know, when you're that age, any little thing, and you're being, and it is correct, the people who are picking you are the same age as you are, 18, 19, 20-year-olds. So they're not going to give you the same level of grace as somebody who's like 30. I'm gonna be honest. Some of these people I wouldn't give grace to either. But they do pick you on a lot of superficial issues, like how do you look? The fact that even Michaela was making her blonde was continuing to keep dyeing her hair to be lighter and lighter so that she could possibly get picked and get fit in. And it's like, how can you fit in without not fitting? How can you stand out but not stand out too much? And it's like, clearly she's black in a sea of whiteness. I don't know. I still think that the documentary is interesting, even though it is so problematic and it has many flaws for sure. With that being said, I hope you enjoy this review and I apologize again for all of the distractions. I do have one more video that I need to get through, which is Real Housewives of Atlanta. I have not finished watching all of it. I have also not finished watching some of the reviews because I wanted to give you Speak on It review and Carlos King to go along with the Real Housewives of Atlanta. So I'm going to do all of that today. So I will see you in the next time. Bye.